Hi everybody, this is A.B. Neely, and we are going to talk today why what we do on an individual level matters. Every action we realize follows a pattern. When we react to a situation, we are following patterns that we learned from our parents, from our elders, from generations and generations of people who acted the same. So these patterns are part of the collective unconsciousness. So this unconscious mind, it's part of what we are as individuals. When I started to study astrology, one of the advices I received from my teacher was, look at yourself, follow what you are doing, observe everything you are saying. So I started to do it, and I was conscious of everything I was doing at every moment. So I had like my normal consciousness where I was looking, talking, participating in activities in life. And then I had my little mind looking at myself. One day I was having a discussion with my partner, and I was getting really upset. The discussion was growing on, and I was getting more and more upset, and I was feeling worse and worse. And because I had been observing myself for a long time, I decided to do it in the middle of the discussion. I started to observe myself, and guess what? Suddenly, I started to laugh. At that moment, my partner thought I had gone crazy. Because imagine you are fighting with your partner and suddenly she starts to laugh. I realized it was not me who was talking, it was my mother. Yeah, I had become my mother. I was having the same kind of fight with my partner that my mother used to have with my father. So when I realized that, it was so hilarious. I couldn't continue with the fight. I had to stop the discussion. I asked my partner for some time because I couldn't either explain him what was happening at me at that moment, because I was so upset and excited at the same time, because I had discovered a pattern that I had inherited from my mother, and now I had the possibility to change it. Because as far as we follow patterns, we are not being creative in our lives. We are just being zombies following the pattern that we have inherited. So when I realized that, I was able to change my pattern with discussions. From that moment on, I was able to have better interactions with my partner, because I realized I was not fighting for what I wanted. I was just reproducing the feelings, the needs of my mother. So at that moment, a big change happened to me. It was the beginning of many changes that I have made in my behavior over time. Because I study astrology, I know that we people can be predictable. And I can predict how things are going to be for some people because they are following patterns. But when we become creative, when we don't follow patterns, when we act according with the situation we are living in, it is more difficult to predict how people is going to behave and how things are going to be. So that's the important thing about patterns. We have them and we need to get rid of them. Why? Well, the thing with patterns is they are always the same. A very good example is a child who, being at home, gets scared and he says, "Mom." So his mom comes fast and she hugs him and he feels secure. Okay? So he knows that if he says "Mom," the mother is coming to him. Now, a few years later, this child is now 9 or 10 years old and he goes to a summer camp. And he's scared at night, and because he's scared, he follows the pattern and he says, "Mom." But there is no mother there. There are only a lot of children who are going to laugh at him for calling his mom because they will think, "Oh, he's a chicken." No, he's scared, probably as everybody else. But he has a strong pattern that he is repeating here. And this is not the place for that pattern, because instead of the reassurance, the security that he got when he was at home, now what he's going to get is laugh. So you see, a pattern can be very dangerous because we don't act according with the real situation in which we live. We are acting according with what we learned before. But as you now know, life changes. Things are not the same. So we need to adapt. When we have patterns that are not good for the moment we live in, those patterns can be a disturbance or even can be very destructive. So we need to develop new patterns that are good for the situation we live in. And there is something that is even more important when we develop a new pattern. Patterns were developed by other people, and now we are following them. Imagine the collective unconscious as a wild landscape. You know, there are trees, there is grass, there is everything that you can find on a prairie or on the woods or on in the jungle. So when you are in the collective unconsciousness, you follow the patterns, that mean the trials that other people have made before you. So what happens when you develop a new pattern? It's not only something that happens on an individual level. When somebody is like in the woods, you go there and there is a pattern that has been established, so you go through the trial. But if you decide to go through another path that had never been walked, you will leave a little path behind you. And as you walk that path once and again and again and again, even if other people don't know you, they will be able to follow that path. So the collective unconsciousness joins us all together. And because of that, you will be able to create paths for other people, even if you don't know them. So every time you stop following patterns that you learned and you start to behave in a creative way to develop new behaviors, you are creating a new path that can be followed by others. So even if you feel, I am not an important person, I am not a famous person, nobody knows me, just because you are acting creatively in your life, just because you are creating a new pattern that is more appropriate for the times we are living in, you are helping other people with your behavior because you are changing the unconscious mind. And the more people follows your path, the more people will leave the one that was harming. And that's real change. So if you want to create real change, start changing yourself. Thank you very much, and thank you to all my patrons. See you soon.